without the microphone. My name is LaTanya Channel. I need the mic. Okay. Do I have to stand behind this podium? Thank you. There we go. Good morning. Good morning. Now you really can hear me. How's everyone doing? Good. My name is LaTanya Channel. I'm the Deputy State Director for the Tennessee Small Business Administration Office. We're actually based in Nashville, but we cover the entire state. We have a small panel for you today. We actually have the Director of the Tennessee Small Business Administration Office, Walter Perry. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do somewhat of a tag team. But the very first thing we want to do, we want to know who's in the room. So question, how many folks are already engaged in government contracting in any way? Local, state, federal? Raise them high. I think I saw one hand. One? Okay. How many folks know about federal contracting? Know about it? Have you ever heard of 8A? Have you ever heard of it? Okay. Are you 8A certified?
No.
No? You're seeking to get 8A certification? Okay, no problem. Have you ever heard of women-owned small business certification at the federal level? Have you ever heard of HubZone certification? Okay, so we have a lot of work to do. So I think we have about, what time is it, Walter?
Oh, it's a little after 9, so we've got to about 9:50 this morning.
Okay.
And we want to make sure we're responsive to your needs. So does anyone have any burning questions that they want to make sure LaTanya and Walter cover by the end of the hour? Just shout them out real quick for us here.
None yet?
None yet?
Okay.
We got to whet the appetite.
Okay, so here's what we're going to start off just by letting you know some basic information. In the federal government, and again, we're talking about, you know, the one that everyone pays taxes to. Anybody pay taxes in the room? Okay, in the federal government has a goal that for everything that the federal government buys, and when I say buy, they buy goods, the government buys goods, the government buys services, the government buys everything. 23% of everything that the federal government buys has to go to small business. Within that slice of the 23%, 5% has to go to minority business. 5% has to go to women-owned small business. 5% also has to go to what we call service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. And this is just a quick overview. And another percentage also has to go to small businesses. So today we're just going to do a real quick and great. Thank you, Walter. Wonderful. He's prepared. So 23%, everything goes to small business, and within that there's a certain breakdown. Well, the gold Cadillac standard out of all those certifications is that very first one called Small Disadvantaged Business, also known as 8A certification. Now, one of the things that we always like to let folks know, certification can be easy or it can be arduous, but our job here in the district office is to help make it all easy. Now, has anyone ever heard the expression, to whom much is given, much is required? Yes. Well, so when we talk about, if you ever hear, and this is that very first one, 8A, 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 and people are like, what's 8A? Well, it's the name of a certification that'll give you access to what we call sole source contracts. What that means is at the end of the day, if a federal agency says, tell me about your business.
Material handling. We do casters, which are wheels, and anything to move something, that's what we do.
Okay. So if a federal agency says, and the name of your business is?
Mid-South Casters.
Mid-South Casters and Equipment. And if the federal agency says, we want Mid-South Casters and Equipment to do this $500,000 job. If you are 8A certified, they would come to one of our staff and say, hey, can Mid-South Casters and Equipment do this work? And one of our staff would say yes or no. If they said yes, and her firm happened to be 8A certified, that contract is hers. You can't get it, you can't get it, your business can't get it, and guess what? You can't even protest it. Because once you get that certification for 8A, and the process can be arduous, but our job is to help make it easy, sole source contract straight to that business. So when I say to whom much is given, much is required, one of the things that we have committed to do in Memphis is to do some more certification workshops to show you how to get 8A certification, to show you also how to get any of these other certifications that are listed here. All these other certifications are valuable because, again, the government has a goal of 23%. The government is measured and rated. There's a report card that goes to Congress every single year that says, hey, did the Veterans Administration give 5% of all their contracts to women-owned small business? And if they only did 3%, next year, they have to try to meet that goal. So if you're women-owned small business certified, they're going to be seeking you out as well. The difference is between women-owned small business certification, HUBZone certification, 8A certification, service-disabled veteran-owned small business certification. Some require what's called a self-certification, which simply means you sit down at a computer, you log your information in for your business. The one that requires the most is which one you think? To whom much is given, much is required? Thank you. So there you go. So that requires an application. It could be this thick, but we have staff to help you fill out that application. So once you get in, you know, that process of seeking your firm that's qualified and capable to do it can be much easier. And then before I hand the microphone over to Walter, the other thing I want to mention, we always like to make sure that our firms know that marketing, the federal government is big, but once you know those contacts at the local level, it can become quite small, meaning they know you, they know your firm, they know your firm's capabilities, and they know the rules on how to get the firms who have these certifications. So your job is to make sure that they know you. So as business owners, you guys know how to market your business, right? But guess what you don't know? You don't know how to market to the federal government. It's very different. Our job, we have staff, we have workshops to help you make it easy to navigate that federal system. Just as a little tidbit, every agency has a small business specialist in that agency. They have multiple small business specialists. They have them in Tennessee. Every agency also has contracting officers. They have hundreds of contracting officers. That small business specialist is the advocate for all the firms that have any of these certifications that we mentioned. Their job is to meet with you, to get to know you. Your job is to go meet with them, to let them know what your capabilities are, so that when those contracting officers start saying, hey, I need to meet my goal of 5% or 3% of certain firms, they can direct you to help you get access to those contracts. So that's called a class on how to market to the federal government, and we have workshops on that as well. So before I hand the mic over to Walter, now, any questions? Yes.
If you're already at 7A, can you get recertified in something that's like a HUBZone, like if it changes? Can you?
So you said if you're already 8A certified? Each certification, now what do you mean by 7A?
He has a small business loan is a 7A. Just to,
7A loan?
yeah.
7A is a loan.
Yeah.
Very different than certification.
Okay.
Okay? 7A, as long as you qualify and meet the requirements for that particular type of loan, you meet it. This is just for federal procurement. Okay? Any other questions?
Now, well, Tanya, let's do a little whetting the appetite here. I think they got me wired
Oh,
up
good.
here, so
Okay.
you can keep that one. All right. So let me see. We talked about 8A, right? And we talked about how a federal agency can reach out to a small business that's 8A certified and do a sole source contract. But Tanya, that's just for what? A couple of $1,000s that can be a sole source contract. It's just a couple of $1,000s, right?
Say one more time.
How much can a sole source be up to? Just a couple of $100,000?
No, $4 million.
$4 million.
$4 million contract.
Do we have everyone's attention in the house this morning? Okay, let's make sure we got the right crowd here. That is important. $4 million sole source to your company. And you don't have to compete with anybody else. The value is tremendous. And we're going to look at who's doing the buying in the state of Tennessee. So let me throw another chart up here for you here, because
What if it's more than one company? Let's say that.
more than one company, they can sole source it, yes, to your company, if you are providing quality goods and services that meet the agency's mission need. Now, let's talk about the agencies. How many of you have ever heard of places in Tennessee that are federal buying activities, maybe outside of Memphis? Of course, you got the Army Corps of Engineers in Nashville and Memphis, Fort Campbell up at Clarksville, the Federal Bureau of Prisons. How many of you knew there's a federal buying activity right down on John Denny Road, and they buy things like bread, things for the inmates, commodities, right here in Shelby County? We have the Agricultural Marketing Service up on Abilene Road, Cotton Division. They do all the grading of the cotton. They buy things like burlap bags to put the cotton in that comes in for grading, and transportation services to bring the cotton in to the grading facility up off Abilene Road, right here in Shelby County. How many of you knew that? We also have the Navy support activity in Millington. They do a lot of infrastructure, construction projects. Internal Revenue Service, have Department of Energy go to the east in Oak Ridge. Tennessee Valley Authority, the Forest Service over in Cleveland, Tennessee, above Chattanooga. National Park Service, MIBO. Who's heard of that acronym? I never heard of it. Oh, wow. Man, I need to give you a bonus point or something there. Major Acquisition Buying Office. That's code for federal government. What that means is they buy not only for the national park at the Great Smoky Mountains in Gatlinburg, they buy for the national parks in Kentucky and North Carolina. Wouldn't it be nice to get to know the national park folks in Gatlinburg? We also have the Department of Veterans Affairs, Veterans Integrated Support Network, Contracting Office number 9 out of Murfreesboro below Nashville. Same thing. They buy for the VA hospital here in Memphis. They have about 100 buyers out of the Murfreesboro office. So if you want to do work for VA for here in Memphis, you need to go to Murfreesboro. And oh, by the way, they buy for the hospitals in Kentucky and West Virginia as well. Wouldn't it be nice to know the buyers in Murfreesboro, Tennessee could connect you with other opportunities within the VA? Up in Kingsport, there's Army Ammunition Plant. Between Chattanooga and Nashville, Tullahoma, the Arnold Engineering Development Center of the Air Force. And then the General Services Administration has federal buildings, federal courthouses all across the state of Tennessee. These are buying activities in the state of Tennessee that do business in the programs that LaTanya was just sharing with you. So the point is, if you get to know, to crack the code, as we say, and get involved in some of the government contracting programs, you might be someone who is eligible for 8A or HUBZone, Service Disabled Veteran, Woman-Owned. There's your market right there in the state of Tennessee. And not only in the state of Tennessee, but LaTanya, if someone has an 8A certification or a HUBZone certification, this is federal government. That's called the United States of America that they can reach out to, right?
Yeah, and I think the federal government buys nationwide, and I think they also buy internationally. I think we have bases in a lot of different countries, right? They need stuff too. They need services, they need products. I want to go back to the question that you asked. You said, what if there's more than one 8A firm? Well, he mentioned that $4 million threshold. That's the threshold where we can award a sole source to your firm. Above that, it can be competed, but again, competed only amongst eligible 8A firms. We don't have to open the door to any other firms. So there are instances where you go above that threshold where we'd have to, not we, the government would have to compete that, but only to those firms that have that 8A certification. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions out there? Yes, ma'am. I think I got to give you the mic. Don't give you the mic. I'll repeat your question.
Voice, you can hear me, sure.
I'll repeat your question.
I'm a contractor for the federal government already.
Okay.
I have one contract and it's okay. But I don't know how to break into this other place, and I don't know where to go. I had HUBZone for 5 years, never put it to use. So I'm just wondering, what is the thing to, what's the key to turn to get to where I'm trying to go, which is more than one federal contract, and, you know, where do I go from here?
You got to know the names of the small business specialists at this agency, at these agencies. How do you get those names? Reach out to our office. Okay. Now, have you met with them? Have you sat down with them?
No, because I think there's $1 million earning limit to get some help from the minority business development agency, the SBA, or something.
I don't know what you mean, so I don't know their rules, so their rule may not exist. What do you mean?
I went to a Steve Cohen event at the University of Memphis once.
Okay.
And that was what I heard, that you need to have at least earnings in the $1 million range before they would assist you.
That is not true. That is not true.
Okay, good.
That is not factual at all.
Okay.
Let me tell you some of the limits. For all the categories that we mentioned to you, 8A certification, we didn't get in-depth in the hub zone, but we can. All the different certifications for small business, the limits, you have to be a small business. How do you know you're small? You go to sba.gov/size, and you look up your industry, and you see if you meet that threshold for your industry. Now, Walter, I have a question for you. Tell me the typical range of what's considered small. Dollar value, number of people, number of employees.
It's going to be dependent on your industry. And that's going to be different for, say, you're an information technology firm. That's a little bit different size standard. That's the government term, size standard, based on your revenue, number of employees, than maybe something like a transportation company. It's going to be specific to each industry.
Do any of them have $1 million limit?
I don't think any of them have a limit, none. So, but I will say this, as sage wisdom, you need to be in business on your own in the commercial sector several years before you dive into government contracting. Do you think the accounting that the federal government uses is the same as private sector accounting? No, you're right. Fiscal years are a little bit different. They start on October 1st, where your year might start on January 1, and there's something called DCAA audits. Ooh, you ever heard of that? Oh, I'm seeing some head nodding. Okay, we're with the right crowd here. You got to know your own book of business and how your numbers work, how to make payroll, how to get your product out in the commercial sector, and then you're ready to jump into government work. And that's usually got 2 or 3 years behind your belt, you know, working in the private sector before you jump in the public sector. But there's no dollar limit there or anything. Now, let's see, I know we had some hands up here. Let's see, ma'am, you were first. Yes.
I was just wondering, in terms of the 8A certification and all of this federal contracting, the structure of your business, does that matter? If it's a sole proprietorship, LLC, a corporation, does any of that play a factor?
You know what matters? That you have a structure. Sole proprietorship is a structure. You have a tax ID number for that sole proprietorship? You're good, okay? LLC is a structure. However you choose to structure a business, the government is not going to dictate that. Now, remember I said to whom much is given, much is required? For the 8A and also for the hub zone, which we'll talk about, there is an application process. We're going to take a deep dive into that. Particularly for the 8A, we want to make sure the business is minority owned and controlled based on those corporate documents that you have for your structure, whatever it may be. For the other certifications that are self-certifications, no one's looking at your corporate documents unless there's a protest, okay? But it's whatever structure you choose. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
What about the type of business that you have? Is it, you know, if it's a good fit?
That's where your market research comes in. Start with this. The government buys everything. So then if you want to do business in the surrounding area, find out what they're buying. When you meet with a small business specialist at these agencies, ask them for, or call them and say, can you send me the forecast? Every single year, each agency does a forecast. Here's what we're going to buy. Here's the categories of small businesses that we need to increase in. So they tell you. So there is no limit on the industry because the government buys everything.
Let me offer an example. You think, well, you know, I might not have a product or service the federal government buys. And this is a really good example because we're getting ready to have Memphis in May, right? Music, okay? We saw that a federal government agency in the state of Tennessee was buying drums and trumpets from a federal acquisition that had been put out of solicitation. And who do you think that's it? Who's buying drums and trumpets? The Tennessee Army National Guard Band. So who would ever think that a company that sells drums and trumpets would be able to do business with the federal government? That is an example of how you think you might count yourself out, but don't. Because there just may be a federal agency that needs that goods or service.
And then one more thing too, always remember that once you get a federal certification, that certification is good government-wide. You don't have to stay limited to this particular area. Okay, you can go to other states. Once you establish those relationships here, they can help connect you with other agencies outside of Tennessee. Of course, most of the buying is out of Washington, D.C. We have firms that do business in D.C. all the time.
My question is in regards to assisting with the process of obtaining the certifications. And once you obtain the certification, are there any forms that aid you in competing for a particular service or product?
It's different for 8A than it is for the other certifications, but the answer is yes and yes. Her question was, where can we get assistance to help you attain the certification? Is there any available? And once you get the certification, where can you get assistance to keep it and also to engage in contracting, correct? For 8A, we hold your hand for 9 years. That's the purpose of the program. So one of our staff members, two actually, we have two staff members who basically serve as business counselors to all of our 8A firms in the state of Tennessee. So they can work with you before you submit that application to help make sure that you get your application correct, because your application goes to an office in Philadelphia. Once you get that certification, they're working with you and holding your hand the entire way for 8A certification. If you decide you want to do a joint venture with a large company or another 8A business or another small business, they're going to help walk you through that step. If you're interested in entering what's called our Mentor Protege program, where you want to partner with a large business and get some help from them to set up maybe your accounting system or to help you with HR, we'll walk you through that step. We'll help you with what's called a capabilities statement. If you're engaged in government contracting, it's almost like your business card. Your capability statements tells the government what you can do. So when you have that meeting with the small business specialist, you leave that with them in addition to your card, and we will help you develop that as well. On the other side, for those that are not 8A, we also have trainings and courses, and we also have resource partners as well. Many of you might have already visited the Small Business Development Center here in Memphis. They're one of our partners to help you with both the application certification process. We had a workshop just last week, and it was with the Small Business Development Center and also what's called PTAC, PTAC, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We just did a seminar 2 weeks ago on certifications on helping you attain it.
Who would be the contact for the Mentor Protege?
For the 8A Mentor Protege program, that's our office. Yep. 615-736-5881.
And we've got some slides, copies of these up here we'll give out at the end that's got some phone numbers and emails in it for you there and all. So rest assured, we're going to leave you with some good stuff here and all. Let's see, I know we had another hand.
The one in the back.
Yes, back in the back. Saw a hand back there. Yes, ma'am.
I was going back to the 8 years, but then there was something about something is done in a particular office. You said a city, but I didn't remember.
Okay, something about the 8 years and done in a particular office. So let's see.
Let me preface a little bit. This is a real high-level overview. Going back to that chart, we could do an hours-long training on how to attain each of these certifications and how to understand it. Okay? So I'm giving you a real high-level overview. But what I did to answer your question, she asked me, what did you mean by the 8 years and where does the application go? So if you remember, I said there's self-certification. There's a website called SAM, as in Uncle Sam, www.sam.gov. This is the first step to engage in federal contracting, regardless of what type of certification that you have. That's where you input all the information, basic information, and you register your business. You can self-certify at sam.gov that your business is small. 23% of all buys from small business. You don't have to do an application package. No one's looking at your corporate documents. You are now eligible for contracts that are set aside just for small business. The only way that SBA would get involved is if there's a protest. A contract is awarded to your firm. It was set aside solely for small business. You were awarded the contract. She comes along and says, wait a second, I know her business, it is not small. And she can protest it, okay? And at that point, SBA is going to review all of your information to make sure it does meet what you said when you self-certified.
Let me ask, do you all have a DUNS number, and have you heard of SAM and things like that? Let me show you. I'm going to skip through to some slides here and all, but I want to show you that if you're interested in looking tonight or this afternoon or right now for those who have smartphones, fpo.gov, fpo.gov, that website. And you can scroll down, place of performance, Tennessee, solicitations, sources sought. You can see what's out there right now. And I did this yesterday because I wanted to share hopefully some good news. If you're a construction company in the room, the Army Corps of Engineers has opportunities out on the street at the Memphis District. That's footsteps away from here in the federal building. So that is where you can look any day, anytime, to see if there's federal opportunities here in this area. And it has, as LaTanya was saying, you can do business across the United States of America. So you may have something that a federal buying activity, maybe at the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, could use. That's where you go to find out what's on the board, fbo.gov. Questions?
Well, last year when you said just get the DUNS number, don't get the package they're trying to sell you. When I just left that conference last year when you did it, a guy at work had already signed up to get the package. I said, only thing he's a number. So we had to cancel all that and just get the free number.
Yeah, that's.
We have a handout up here. Yep. This handout right here.
That was my question, we don't have the package like that last year.
It says 8A Business Development Certification. And there are 7 steps. But here's what I want you to know. These same 7 steps govern all the other certifications, okay? What do you need to know to register in SAM? You need a DUNS number. There's a phone number on here and a website. DUNS number's free. You don't have to pay anybody to get you a DUNS number, okay? Your EIN or tax identification number, it's free. You don't have to pay anybody. Phone number's on here, where to get it. The information on SAM, how to register in SAM, is here. It's also free. You don't have to pay anyone to get it. And then it has some other links as well for the application process. But for the most part, it's free. You don't have to pay anyone for a certification. But I always tell your business owners, you know where to spend your time and you know where to spend your money. Again, self-certification doesn't require as much time as an application. Application is required for 8A, and an application is required for HubZone. A lot of people will pay someone to compile their application because it can be arduous. That's a business decision that you make if you're going to pay someone. But I always say, know what you're paying for, just like anything else. No one can guarantee you federal certification for any certification. Secret. I used to be the chief of certification for HubZone. I used to be the chief of certification for small disadvantaged business certification on the federal side. I reviewed all those applications out of Washington, D.C. I didn't know any of y'all. Didn't know your face, nothing. All I saw was the paper. If you don't know what that paper's supposed to look like, and you pay someone in D.C., many people will pay $10,000 just to have someone compile that paperwork for their 8A application, because it does take a lot of time. Business decision, that's your decision. What I say is, make sure you go to as many seminars as you can, or send someone. Do you have a smart kid in your house? Or half smart, they can read, right? They love the internet. We have a website, SBA.gov, and it's on this handout, SBA.gov/G as in government, C as in contracting, classroom. There's 20 different courses that talks about all these different certifications, how to obtain them, understanding the federal marketplace, how to market. You got a smart kid in your house? Hey, have them. It's on the handout here, but it's www.sba.gov GC Classroom. G stands for Government Contracting Classroom. GC Classroom. If your smart kid in the house doesn't have time to look at the webinar, they can just download the webinar and read it and take some good notes. Okay? Give them $20 and say, hey, tell me all about this. Seriously, seriously, a smart high school student. And then once you know all about it, and you say, you know what, I've done my market research, I met with the small business specialist, I did some research on FBO.gov, I called the Tennessee District Office at 615-736-5881, I took some courses, I spoke to staff there, I met with SBDC, I went to PTAC, I'm ready to do my application. Well, there's a webinar for that. Where's that smart kid? And if not a smart kid, you got a good administrative assistant, have them compile all that paperwork for you. Make sure you know what they're doing, of course, because you can just read it yourself. Bring it to you, and then come see us.
And I know we got about 5 minutes remaining and all there, because it's approaching 9:50. But again, we've got a good variety of materials up here for you. We got these slides for you if you want a copy. And we just want to make sure we've gotten all the questions answered, because we'll be here all day. We have a little SBA booth out here in the marketplace, and LaTanya and I'll be glad to answer questions one-on-one with you, talk confidential about your company. And that's one thing, too. When you come to see us or you reach out to the Small Business Development Center or our resource partners, we keep everything confidential. So you can come to us and talk your numbers, talk about your years in business, your articles of incorporation, you know, what you're selling, what you're looking to break into the federal marketplace. All that's confidential. And we don't charge you anything. And there are businesses that make money on small businesses like yours that will charge you for the types of things that we talked about today. And you're welcome to use those, but again, you've already paid for LaTanya and Walter's time this morning because you paid your taxes on April 15th there. Ma'am, I saw you had a question over here. Did we want to get that question?
Oh, just, I thought maybe I'd ask you privately, but I think it's a question everybody would probably want to know. What is the thing that most gets people rejected on these applications?
Oh, yeah, I can tell you that real good. I used to reject them all the time. Secret, I love declines. Only because I'm an attorney by trade, so I used to love writing the letters, and I'm a nerd, so that was fun. And again, I didn't know y'all. You know, now that I'm in Tennessee, I know y'all. So my job is to help you get approved, okay? But the most common, number one reason why an application gets returned, and again, to whom much is given, much is required. 8A is the longest application process. It's arduous, but we can help you. It's going to get returned multiple times before it gets declined, which is good that it's returned back to you. Because once you decline, you have to wait a year to reapply again, unless you file an appeal, which is more time and energy. So returning it gives you all these multiple chances to get it right. But if you come see us, we can help you get it right. It may not be the first time, maybe the second, okay? But the number one reason, not reading the instructions and not providing what the checklist said to provide. If we ask for articles of incorporation filed with the state, it better be stamped by the state. Okay? If we ask for bylaws, we should get bylaws. We recognize that many small businesses don't have bylaws. You know, we've come across businesses that have been in business for 20 years and never had any bylaws. It was working and it was successful. But if you want 8A certification or HubZone certification, you gotta have it before you can get the certification. So people will submit application without the bylaws. That's the number one. And then the number two is the documents that you do submit don't marry don't marry with the responses given. So if, for instance, 8A, the firm is supposed to be 51% or more owned by a minority individual, and we look at the corporate documents and see that the minority individual owns 49%, our office has two choices. It could decline it right up front or send it back to you. They're probably going to decline it because they're thinking it's a front. To whom much is given, much is required. The goal is to not have front firms. Okay? So I think our time is up, because I could keep talking.
Is up right in the back there? Yep, okay. All right.
Thank you, we'll be here all day.
We appreciate your time, and again, take it.